Go ahead. Take a look.
Ай! Не получилось. Не получилось, блядь. Да что ж такое-то, а? Как же сложно.
This is...
Это огромнейший минус того, что в том, что очень быстро загрузки у меня проходят. Я не могу сделать нормально этот прикол. Увы. О, блядь.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his... Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But...
Блядь, что ж я так долго думаю? Что со мной?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he would stop
Какой
by
же
the
этот
employee
прикол с
lounge
ведром
first, just to
жесткий.
admire it.
В моем случае, пипец.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Stanley had now gotten himself so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun... So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun... So far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun... You didn't think I was actually just a recording, did you? What a silly and trite explanation that would be. All the back and forth between you and me, all the absurd adventures we've been through, and it all turns out I'm just a tape recording. It was all just in Stanley's head. I bet that's the kind of twist you think is revelatory. I bet each and every time you watch a movie where it turns out all to be in the main character's imagination, you must absolutely bolt off the couch in pure shock at the phenomenal and intricate storytelling. It must be so simple to be you. Life being an unending waterfall of surprises and delights. How much more exciting you must find the world than the rest of us do. Now I've become sad. Look what you've done to me. This is all your fault. Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? Oh, new content? What does that mean? New content.
for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please, step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content. Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure. Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
А чё моя встала, блядь? Блядь. Это пиздец какой-то. У меня... Понятно. Я сейчас перезапущу, блядь. Всё. А, тут пинг пиздец, я понял. Походу народу просто ёбнешься залетело, блядь. Понятно, придется сейчас перезапускать игру нахуй заново. Там народу ёбнешься, блядь. Из-за этого глючит нихуя. Она просто стоит у меня. Вообще не фармит. Ну, как раз уз... Камон, блядь, бич. Идиотка. Тут будем стоять.
This... When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his... Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But...
Я так думаю, я ненадолго, блядь. Отошел. Пидран Ресетов, приветствую. Дядька Акбарс. Давненько вас не было.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
Yes, truly a room worth admiring. But eager to get back to
Бля,
business,
что-то у меня
Stanley took the
поушины там
first
пиздец
open door on
заканчиваются
his
быстро.
left.
Походу скоро я, блядь,
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's
опять
incredible he
закончу.
wasn't fired years ago.
Stanley had now gotten himself so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun. So far off the beaten path that it seemed. You didn't think I was actually just a recording, did you? What a silly and trite explanation that would be. All the back and forth between you and me, all the absurd adventures we've been through, and it all turns out I'm just a tape recording?
У тебя зрители изнеженные, да и ты говоришь, что я их обижаю. Я говорю, что ты их обижаешь. Что?
All to be in the main character's imagination, you must absolutely bolt off the couch in pure shock at the phenomenal and intricate storytelling. It must be so simple to be you. Life being an unending waterfall of surprises and delights. How much more exciting you must find the world than the rest of us do. Now I've become sad. Look what you've done to me. This is all your fault.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Oh, new content? What does that mean, new content?
And thank you for playing
Вообще
the
ничего не
Stanley
понял,
Parable
если честно.
Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers. After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please, step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content. Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure. Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it.
Ну, нашел за что зацепиться.
Initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Mostly tedious. It's as if them... Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
Плюс это было 800 миллиардов лет назад. Плюс это не настолько серьезно, чтобы стать это какой-то проблемой. ТЗ.
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else. Goodness. Another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could count to 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And oh, wait. There's more. Very good. Yes.
Опять напишешь что-то не по теме, опять ведут обиды.
I'm ready for whatever it is.
Ну, я не знаю, ну пиши по
Oh, you've
теме
got to
тогда.
be kidding me. You see,
Я просто, я не знаю,
Stanley,
как
this is
это,
what happens
на
when
это
greedy
реагировать,
video
потому
game
что у
developers
каждого
with
свои
no
приколы,
respect for their
кому-то
fan
что-то
base
не
rush a
нравится в
cheap
любом случае.
expansion to market
Что
for
у
no
вас там
reason other than
происходит,
to make
я
an
без
easy
понятия.
dollar. And don't get me
То есть
started on the
мне
level of
вообще в целом
craftsmanship that's
похую,
gone
что
into
вы
it.
здесь
In fact,
пишете
I'm
в
looking
чате, я
right
вам
now
всегда
at the
это
game's
говорю.
achievements,
Кто
and it's
как
hard to believe one of them
реагирует,
actually
это, ну
says
уж простите,
test achievements,
я
please
ситуацией не
ignore.
владею.
What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm
Ей просто,
offended, and
видимо, не
I intend
нравилось
to find these
просто
people on
вообще
Twitter and
упоминание
hold them
Веронички,
personally
поэтому она очень
accountable.
сильно реагировала на
It's
это.
my fault, Stanley.
Ну,
I
я что
built up
могу
too
сделать?
much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could
Ну,
never have
если б
lived
я
up to such
контролировал весь мир,
expectations.
ну,
If
я
you're
б тут,
still
наверное,
with
не
me,
сидел бы.
why don't we just
Так,
reset the game?
увы,
And we'll
ребят.
try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
У меня ничего не происходит.
Stanley,
Так в любом
come
случае
over
она
here.
ушла тогда.
In the vent.
Если ты
I
про тот
want to
момент
show
аж.
you something. Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much
Но
better
только
the
это не
Stanley
означало,
Parable
что
used to
нужно
be.
пропадать
So I made
всем на
something
свете
special
на
and
всю
tucked it
жизнь.
away here where the game's developers
Хз,
won't
не
find
знаю,
it.
ребят,
Just
это
our little secret. Take a look.
как хотите.
I
Я всем
call
рад.
it the memory zone. It's
А
where I've
там
been
уж
storing
сами
all my
решайте.
favorite memories so I can
Кто
relive
куда,
the peak experiences of
кто
my life
зачем.
whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC. You see, Stanley, doesn't the memory zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley... And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism.
Ну,
10
про
out
это
of
он
10
говорил.
from
Я, если честно, вообще не
destructoid.com.
понимаю
James
все эти
Stephanie
терки.
Sterling writes, and I quote, We're
И
so
как
many
бы,
games
ну
have
их нахуй.
aspired to
Не
be
хочу
more
даже
than
вдаваться
games,
в
end up
подробности
less than any form
всех
of
этих
art.
проблем.
Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created. Did you hear that, Stanley?
Потому что по мне это
Every
вообще не
game ever
серьезно,
created. That's how
если
grand and
честно.
all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It
Ну,
isn't even the Stanley
поддерживает, да,
Parable
я
anymore. It's just a
знаю.
husk
Но при
now.
этом он
A
сидит у
lifeless
Дэми,
husk
допустим,
with an
также
hour
нормально
of
общается.
elevator content.
При всем при том, что Дэми против всех. Ну, не знаю, тоже ж
Here's
общается.
another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both
Опять же,
a
смотря
richly
кто какую
stimulating
позицию
commentary on the
держит.
nature
Я,
of
допустим,
choice in games,
взял
and one that
позицию,
offers
что
some
мне
of the most
неприятны
incredible, surprising,
некоторые
and
люди. То
rewarding
есть я не
choices
говорю про
I've
всю
ever
их
been
команду там.
confronted with in a
Мне
game.
неприятны
9 out of
некоторые
10.
люди.
Don't you get
Типа
it, Stanley?
Вальдемарки,
The
которого я в
game was
целом даже не
perfect.
знаю, но мне
It
даже
didn't need
по
anything
нику в
else.
первый
It
раз, когда я
didn't
услышал,
need
прям
new
я уже понял,
content.
что он говно.
It just needed to be left alone.
Человек.
To spend the rest of
Кто
time
думает, что
collecting
он
dust
хороший,
in the
ну,
hallowed
пожалуйста.
hall of beloved
А
video game
против
memories.
всей команды, как все говорят, типа, если ты поддерживаешь всю
These were
команду,
simpler
там,
times, Stanley.
типа, я не знаю.
But I wouldn't
Пакламак
give to go
охуенный
back
для меня
and
чел,
have it
допустим,
all
я
over
против
again.
него ничего не имею. Вальдемарка, ну, как я считаю, что говно, так и говно. А тут уже смотря кто кого и как поддерживает. Да и в целом, мне, если честно, я говорю, какая-то история вообще мутная, я даже не хочу ее затрагивать, потому что мне в целом похуй на нее.
Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny? I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up
Ну,
a
а
handful of gags to insert
в целом,
into the
почему не
Stanley
по
Parable,
пути? Ну,
but the
типа,
game is already such a densely layered
просто
web.
не затрагивайте
Let's
эту
see what
тему,
this one says.
а в остальном нормально же
Well, the idea
общались.
for the game is good, for someone
Ну,
who
поддерживают,
prefers
ну, пусть
non-linear
общаются
games,
с ними.
this preachiness gets annoying flat
Но
preachy.
при этом он же не говорит,
Stanley,
что
I'm
мы
not
все
preachy,
хуёвые.
am I?
Ну, я не знаю.
You can tell me if I'm preachy, honestly.
Но опять же, я говорю, это ваши
This is actually
терки.
quite shocking for me.
Я, как обычно, говорю, я всем рад. А
А
кто как решил уже дальше, это, ну,
You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did. But maybe it wasn't. dear. What an awful memory to have to... What's this one got to say?
Ну, у каждого, опять, видишь, у каждого своя правда. Потому что Фулгор говорит, что с той стороны там дохуя не подсказок, как сказать, опровержений. И типа разъебать все эти приколы на изи. Но я не знаю, у каждого своя правда.
If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive
Здорово,
reviews of the
Стрэнгот.
Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the... And here it is.
Не знаю, если честно, какие там могут быть опровержения, я тоже не понял, но опять же, я говорю, вдаваться в подробности не хочу. Вольдемарка для меня гнида и все. А остальное, ну не знаю. Если кто-то считает, что он охуенный, ну пожалуйста, я тебе против. Тем не угодишь.
Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to
Опять же, допустим, для меня Покламак охуенный чел, а вот с Деми у них там терки какие-то. Опять же, почему? Непонятно. Все друг с другом собачатся. А мне, если честно, это нахуй не нужно. Мне это не интересно. Участвовать в каких-то терках не по мне. Я вот сижу, спидраню, горю с этого. Там себя хейчу и заебись. И нормально. Беж Барамак Геймс, мы будем следовать юрты в казахской степи. Так. Орать матом в микрофон. Бля, не, спасибо, мне эта явно игра не подходит. Я боюсь, что такой игрой я здесь долго, блядь, не проживу.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they
Реквестирую. Не, спасибо. Я ж реквесты не принимаю. Мне лучше Стеллу починить, и я тогда Стеллу буду бегать. После поя, правда. Мне бы вот эту игру улучшить. Я ее хочу уже улучшить. Я хочу сап... 35, да, по-моему? Сколько у меня? 35 минут, по-моему, да? Вот хочу сап 35. Я все сказал. А завтра что у нас? Среда? Да, среда, да? Да? Или вторник? А я проебался. Я пьяный, походу. Я забыл. Блять, у меня телефон, вот он. Вторник сегодня. Ёбана. Завтра среда. Ага. Ой. Завтра среда. Четверг у нас КС начинается опять. А в пятницу уже поем. В пятницу уже поем. Пое, блядь, хуёе. Поебота. Опять этот очень важный момент. Блять, как же мне его сложно делать, а? Это пиздец.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Достаточно сложный момент в моем
Good.
случае
You
именно.
noticed my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
То есть на самом деле он не такой сложный. Просто в моем случае он сложный, потому что у меня слишком быстро загрузки проходят в игре.
You see, Stanley,
Понимаешь?
I've been reflecting on the Stanley parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2. Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for. Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. Here we are. Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement, right? Oh goodness, Stanley, this is very awkward. I hate to do this. No? You're just going to ignore my advice? Fine. No fun new content for you then.
А чё
You're the one
дёргается?
who spent money on this game.
Я так мог вылететь сейчас.
So, Stanley, what do you
Oh.
think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on, let me do a different arrangement. Okay. God, it really is the worst when you collect... Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything.
Не тряси меня, не...
I wanted more than anything to create a
Простите,
sequel
пожалуйста.
that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they wouldn't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course.
Но
With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original
вот
game.
приходится вот такой хуйней заниматься. Искать прям точку определенную. И то это все равно очень сложно сделать.
This is the Stanley Parable 2. Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Блять, вот даже не знаю.
A common complaint of the
О! Должно было получиться. Все, отлично. Отлично. Только вот здесь теперь. Говно. Да, все получилось. Вот оно, ведро стоит. Огонь.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the... What? Really?
Опасно.
I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful.
Ну не надо. Ну не надо. Ну пожалуйста. А, теперь рандом, я понял, не даст вообще. Ясно. Спасибо, игра.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Просто гениальная
Stanley
игра.
came to a set of two open doors. He entered the door on his left.
Зачем делать такой шанс странный вообще? Зачем его вообще делать тогда? Не понимаю. Чтобы эта комната появлялась. Какой смысл от этого?
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. And
Не знает никто? Вот и я не знаю.
all of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? When Stanley came to a set of
Чуть
two
налево не
open
побежал.
doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Stanley picked up the bucket. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to... You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler and Marines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them. And now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler and Marines. None of us can. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical. And Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines. Those Figlers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
Ладно, не буду трясти, а то хотел еще так покрутить вот так вот.
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then we had no
Блядь,
idea of
мышка
how
уже
many of them we'd find.
мокрая, у меня
Sure, it
ладошка
said 6
вспотела.
right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley. And here was a second Stanlerine. You found this one all on your own, just by poking around by the red and blue doors. You did that, Stanley. I'll be honest. Back then I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways. Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini Stan? Can you remember?
Блин, не туда, походу, лечу, ёпта мать, блядь.
And then there was no more. Because we've caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone. No.
Аж очко сжалось.
I'm not ready to move on.
А у
Stop
меня.
the loading screen. Isn't there some way we
Вот
can
сейчас
stay
еще
here
больше
enjoying these
трясется.
figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the
Потому
memory
что
zone
хуй его
again in
знает,
the
сейчас
opposite
откроется или
direction.
не
See
откроется.
how that feels. Okay, yes. The back of the boss's office. I remember this. I must say,
Открылось,
of all the
спасибо.
figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind.
Вот тут еще
Let's
момент
keep going. I
сложный.
want more. This one, and here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched?
Отлично.
Yes, I love that video. Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink room. Oh well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memories. Let's see, what came next? Hey, that's exactly right. It was here in the boss's bathroom. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget your third time doing anything. This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone... This is it. The very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the Figlarines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this?
Сколько там, 12, да, прошло?
Look,
Сейчас
it's the
осталось, да.
terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then. But time does put... Oh, yes! The 2 doors! Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one. And before everything else, there was your office. Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember. Yes, I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision.
Что-то по ощущениям как-то долго. 31 минута уже целая. Нихуя себе, блядь. Мани, мани, мани. У нас в кармане. Мы идем бухать. Бухать, бухать, бухать. Ну, что-то как-то да. Непонятно почему, но долго. САП 35 я бы не сделал, походу. Жаль. Непонятно. А может, я сделаю? Не, вряд ли. И по 1,5 минуты всего лишь осталось. Мне там еще кликать, блять, 10 лет. И это непонятно. Ну, непонятно же. Ну, не знаю. Hello again. Жаль. Ну, тут уже где-то ВР в это время. Да, это не САП 35, прикинь. Как так-то?